time in the book. And I am one of the 1 in 4. However, I'm not really an authority on anything. I even find editing a challenge some days. The farther one travels, the less one knows, as the Tao Te Ching and George Harrison said and sang. So I work with Sandra Kramer, who's the publishing manager at Wild Goose, Jane Dark Riley, who does marketing and other creative things for Wild Goose, and Iona Community, our admin person, and Zoom master tonight. Thanks to Jane, especially for promoting this evening. She put some poems and prayers from the book together with some really beautiful visuals on the Wild Goose Publications Facebook page. Please check those out if you haven't already. So we're recording this for the Iona Community YouTube channel. And Iona, do you want to tell folk all about that? You're good at that. Thanks a lot. Much appreciated.
Yep, absolutely. So it's just for our presenters, our speakers and authors tonight, as well as Neil. They will be recorded and that will go on the Iona Community YouTube channel. If you are just participating here to join us in this time, do not worry, you are not being recorded unless you speak. So we do try to keep people on mute when they aren't speaking. If you're able to do that yourself, that's wonderful. If there's background noise, I have the power to enforce that in case you are worried. So do not worry, but that is why, and you are not being recorded. Thanks, Neil.
Okay, so reading tonight, we have Sandra Sears, all the way from Willowchara, Australia. I'm probably not saying that right. Well, we hope she'll be here. Emma Major can't make it, unfortunately, she's under the weather. Personally, I love her really gutsy human poems. So I hope you check those out in the book if you get the book or have the book. And take care, Emma. We have Simon Taylor with us, Elizabeth Baxter, Rachel McCann, Janet Lees, and Thea Joshi. So thank you all. So Redeeming Our Cracks is a book of liturgical and practical resources from Iona Community members, friends, and others, designed to create more awareness and understanding about mental health. It's also a book that I think very much highlights some of the justice and peace issues around mental health, with, for example, pieces from the Cyrenians, a homelessness charity, from freedom from torture, from folk who have worked with and befriended refugees and asylum seekers, and a piece about food poverty and mental health. In the introduction to the book, I wrote, 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health problem in their lifetime is a statistic that is often quoted. Sometimes it's 1 in 3 or 1 in 2. While these are helpful stats, I think the reality is more like everyone in this overwhelming, complicated, difficult, wonderful, beautiful miracle of a world will experience a mental health problem at some point in their life. Why wouldn't we? Seems perfectly reasonable. I have never known anyone who hasn't experienced a mental health problem at one time or another. So to me, this book is simply about being human. The more we talk about mental health, the more accepting society becomes, hopefully, and the more empowered people are. Sharing can only help. So we walk alongside each other as friends, listening and caring, as best we can. I'm not a mental health professional. If you're looking for information or advice about counseling or psychotherapy, it's probably best to contact an organization like, the British Association for Counseling and Psychotherapy, or Counseling and Psychotherapy in Scotland, the UK Council for Psychotherapy. There will be other organizations in other countries. This is really not that sort of book. Although some mental health professionals, counselors, therapists, pastors, chaplains have written for the book, I'd say it was more a book of writing from folk who have experienced mental health challenges, all of us, I think, and folk who walk alongside others. And I think that kind of resource is very valid and valuable. So I'll start with this wee piece titled, Some Things That Make Me Feel Better. One day I just simply asked folk I met and folk I knew, what made them feel better, what gave them a feeling of well-being. And here are some of the answers I got, and you can maybe add your own. Some things that make me feel better. working in the garden, looking at sunlight on a leaf and planting bulbs for the spring, the cat purring in my lap, listening to John Lennon singing Whatever Gets You Through the Night, calling up my good friend Jasmine, making love, community film nights, getting off Facebook for a while, making hot chocolate and taking a nice hot bath, taking a walk down the rigs, cleaning the house, volunteering at the drop-in center, writing out my soul, playing the piano and being totally in the now, going somewhere like the North Beach on Iona and screaming. The second last one is mine, playing the piano. On a good day, just that feeling of being totally in the now with no regrets of the past hanging around, no anxiety about the future. The kingdom of God is now. And I probably should have added stand-up comedy in there too. I just find that an amazing release, going out and seeing live stand-up. So that's me now. I was going to have Sandra Sears read, but I don't know. Is Sandra around, Iona, from Australia? No. Okay, well, we'll try to go back to Sandra. I can do that. We'll talk to Simon.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Simon. I'll give you a wee intro, okay? Simon Taylor is the Free Church Chaplain at the University of Exeter and a Baptist minister. He also ministers at South Street Baptist Church, which seeks to offer a welcome and support to those with mental health difficulties. Simon, in Redeeming the Cracks, you said, for your own well-being, you walk on Dartmoor and bake bread to share with others, which is a nice answer.
Yeah.
So can you please tell us about some of the community and church work you've been involved with that supports folk with mental health challenges? And please read a couple prayers and poems that came out of that time.
Well,
thanks.
Thank you for the invitation to be here. It's a real privilege and really special to be in this book, which serves such a fantastic cause. I came to South Street Baptist Church in 2010 and found a church that, without really knowing it, seemed to be really attractive to people with mental health difficulties. Had a number of folks in the congregation who are living with quite serious mental health concerns, and perhaps that's what made it attractive to others, that we seemed a welcoming and a safe space. We also have something called the Palace Gate Centre, a community centre that the church has run for more than 40 years. And through these kind of links we were developing and being more aware of the folks around us and our own sort of mental health needs, we, in partnership with the NHS, opened a cafe called Dove Cafe. I've got the flag. I have to come to church today because our internet at home is playing up. We opened a cafe in partnership with the NHS. They provide some of the workers who are themselves in recovery from serious mental health problems. And it's not labelled as a mental health cafe, but it's a place where folks who perhaps are struggling with some form of mental health problems know that they are very welcome, and there'll be people who will be companions. And really it's about supporting each other. And that's what much of the work in this centre is about people sharing their own hurt, their own vulnerability, and that sharing our stories, we might be able to help one another. In the church, we have a beautiful window, a bit unusual for a Baptist church, have stained glass, but we got one. It has a fantastic dove in it, and so we made the dove our kind of symbol. And as this work was developing, I felt it would be really helpful to have a prayer that kind of underpinned what we were doing in this sense of supporting each other. This is the prayer that I wrote for the Palace Gate Centre and the work that we're doing. So it says this: Dove of peace, life-giving Spirit of God, touch the lives of each who come into this place, that all may find refuge under your wings of love. In sharing our hurt, may we journey towards healing. In sharing our vulnerability, may we find new strength. In sharing ourselves, may we support one another. In letting go of our burdens, may we be able to begin again. Glide through all offered within these walls, that here we may find a deeper well-being in our lives and the still calm of your peace. Through Jesus, our friend and Saviour. Amen. And then the second piece that Neil kindly invited me to read is, I guess, more of a poem. In my time here, I've had the privilege of supporting a number of folks as they've gone through mental health problems. And with one who I spent a fair bit of time with, sometimes in hospital when they were going through particularly difficult times. I remember how they used to get really frustrated when the consultants or the nurses would get their names wrong, because it kind of felt as if they didn't really matter, or you know, the consultant wasn't really interacting well with them. And this very short poem, Names Matter, came out of seeing how they felt. So names matter. Names are important. We don't want to be known by our mental state or diagnosis, anxious, sad, depressed, bipolar. We want to be known by our name. Names matter. When someone knows our name, we know they have taken the trouble to begin to know us. When someone calls us by name, there is a connection between us. Knowing one another's name is the beginning of relationship. Relating to those who use our name is the gateway to deeper fellowship, is the road to stronger friendship. In connecting with those to whom our names matter, we find companionship and joy. On the path to well-being, names matter. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Simon. Thank you. Another very welcoming place that supports mental health and well-being is Holyrood House in Thirsk, and some of you probably know of it. Reverend Elizabeth Baxter is pastor and chaplain to the community there and lives there in community full-time. She's also a spiritual director and theologian and coordinates the Center for the Study of Theology and Health. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you doing? Hello? I think you maybe need to unmute.
Okay.
Hi, Elizabeth. How are you doing?
Hello.
Can
yes, right.
Can you tell us a bit about what goes on at Holyrood House around mental health and well-being, and then please read a few of your wonderful prayers which come out of the common life there.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I think it's what you were saying, Neil, that all of us live with issues around our mental health. And I think at Holyrood House, we work very holistically, or we try to do anyway, that body, mind, spirit, it's all linked up. So when we're going through physical difficulties and physical pain, all sorts of things we may be living with, that affects our mental health and vice versa. And these things affect our spiritual health and well-being as well. So we try and kind of link these things up together. And I think it's great joy for me to live there because it's in a very lovely area. It's North Yorkshire. You know, we've got the river down just over the in front of the house. But we've also in some lovely gardens, and we try and link up with nature and beauty and wonder. So we do quite a lot of well-being sessions, creative sessions, garden sessions. We also write our own liturgies. We're an ecumenical, I mean, I'm an Anglican priest, but we actually are an ecumenical house, which is so important. And we're a private charity, which means really we can go with where we need to go. So we try and make the connections with our spiritual life and our prayer life with what's going on for us all and the wider world, what's going on with the world. So we work for justice and peace. Some of us are campaigners for LGBTQI support and acceptance and campaigners, perhaps for inclusive language, in naming God, all those things. Some of us are involved in because we think it makes a difference to mental health and well-being, to feel absolutely included. It's not easy to work that out, but we give it a go as best we can. We're residential as well, which is lovely because we have a lot of people from Scotland who come to us. We have people coming up from Exeter, you know, Cornwall upwards, Bristol, Devon. I was in Devon the other day and visiting people, and a lot of people from London. We're on the train line, good train lines, so easy to get to, and in the centre of Britain, really. So people come and find us when they need us. I think particularly at times of major trauma, we have a wonderful team of counsellors and psychotherapists, highly trained people, but all giving their time, hours and hours of voluntary time, which is a wonderful privilege. So yes, so I write a lot of the prayers, but we use other people's prayers too. We use Iona prayers, of course, and some of our team are members of Iona, so we often home in with Iona liturgies and prayers and hymns, of course, as well. We write our own hymns as well, but we do use Iona hymns a lot. I'll read, because of the link with the gardens and with nature, and we work a lot with what we call an ecology of health, which is, you know, global health, personal health, spiritual health, always connected with all that we see around us to try and bring healing into creation. So I wrote this some years ago now. When I have lost my song, birds come, fly and sing to me. When I have lost my song, trees come and wave a branch to me. When I feel alone, flowers come, pour your scent my way. When I have lost my senses, and I will tiptoe through my valleys into a new tomorrow. And another piece, I've written quite a lot of garden prayers, and one of them, if I can find it, I think it's fallen out. I'll get it for my little bookmark. Yeah, so one of the garden prayers is called Dance of Life. Again, trying to take from the beauty around us and the wonder of creation to help us name ourselves, really. So I'll read the Dance of Life. We name ourselves in the dance of life. As the butterfly flutters from hidden space, so we are freed from hiding. As flowers stand tall, each with dignity, together in solidarity, so they call us to do the same. We can come out, to be ourselves, to play with others, to enter into our becoming, to dance new steps, feeling grass on bare feet and softness of skin. Playful God, hues of colour evoke our senses. Branches wave to us, calling us to dance. Release us from our fears. Renew our energies and restore our joy. I'll just finish with one about community, because I really do think that community, I mean, what Simon was saying about the work there in Exeter, and all of us are involved in community in different ways. Without community, I think we can't do it alone. We need one another. And I'm privileged to, I think, live well because I'm part of a community, and the rhythm of that, and the prayer of that, and the holding of that, which is a real privilege. So this is one of the prayers about community. God of community, present with us in our brokenness, you embrace us here, gathering our fragmented lives, restoring us with new hope. Teach us to live gently with our sorrows, to find solidarity with others, and our own resources for healing. God of compassion, we pray for all people who live today with fear, hunger, sickness, and loss. In your tenderness, enfold them. In your justice, bring them hope. In your mercy, forgive us for our part in the injustices of the world. Amen.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Thank you. I think I saw that Sandra is with us from Australia. Is that true, Iona, do you think?
I'm here.
Hi, Sandra. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, what time is it in Australia?
4:30 a.m.
gosh. I've been asking people about what gives them a sense of well-being, and I bet more sleep would give you a sense of well-being. But thanks very much for being here with us. It's nice to see you, and nice to see your face, because I talked to you on email quite a bit. So Sandra, Reverend Sandra Sears is a local priest in the Anglican Diocese of Willowchara. Am I saying that right, Sandra?
Lochra.
Okay. Yeah, I would need practice. And that's in rural South Australia. She's a member of the community of Saints of Barnabas and Cecilia. She writes poetry, stories, liturgical resources, songs, hymns. She's published quite a bit with Wild Goose. And thanks. I included one of your prayers on the back cover of the book. So thanks very much. So I'll just leave you to read a few prayers, and appreciate that. Thank you.
You want me to read a few prayers?
Sure. I mean, or a few poems. Yeah.
Well, excuse me. Most of my journey has been a very internal journey. I'm much more of a contemplative than anything else. And when I sort of fell in the heap with depression a few years ago, about from 2015 onwards, I began a journey with Christ. I'm not terribly good at getting out there and teaching or anything like that, or even though I'm a priest and I write sermons and stuff like that. So my journey has been a particularly inward journey, and I sometimes worry that how is this going to help people? I'm not a programs person, and it's interesting that last year I was praying about this, and I thought, what is this poetry doing? I just want it to help people, and it's like you put it out there as much as you can, but you don't know what's going to happen to it. It's casting your bread upon the water. Sometimes it comes back to you very soggy, but most of the time you don't get any feedback. So being published by Wild Goose has been absolutely marvelous for me, and certainly for my well-being. And I remember when I first started, when I first went down in the heap, I would have to get up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, come into the chapel and just sit with Christ. And we began this journey. So I can't say that I've been setting up programs or working with other people. our diocese is populated mainly by emus and kangaroos and not by people. And sometimes I think I'm in palliative care role because a lot of our little churches are getting even smaller. So all I can do is put the poetry out there, publish as much as I can. But I was praying about it last year and getting rather angst about it and saying, look, I haven't done anything. I'm not helping anybody. And then along comes this offer to contribute to this book, which was just an absolute answer to prayer. So what I've discovered in the process of spending a lot of time with Christ and journeying with him, we went on this very long journey, is learning what positive relationship can be with Christ. We're imbued with this thing that you have to be righteous and good and stuff like that and get it right, more or less. And I discovered that redemption isn't just a cutting out of what sort of an excision of the bad things in our lives. In actual fact, redemption is taking those things and turning them into something beautiful. This is what Christ does. And I wrote this poem called Feng Shui. Sounds a bit strange, but there you go. It's like this. Jesus and I, we've built this house, you see. The old one had to be demolished bit by bit. Everything inside is sparkling new. And I wouldn't want it any other way. We've spent hours together deciding where each piece should go, each in its proper place. But then Jesus says, what about the stuff in the shed? I was hoping you wouldn't notice, or at least leave sleeping dogs lie. But no, to my shame, he wants to trawl through it, examining bits and pieces from my past, things I didn't know how to part with, things that followed my every move, refusing to go away, tripping me up, weighing me down, all locked away in my fear space, that terrible, terrible fear of being rejected, of being hurt yet again. I tried so hard to consign these things to the dump so that I could stand before Jesus as a new and clean person. After all, isn't that what I was supposed to do? But nothing seemed to work. And so hiding them away in a shed at the bottom of the garden was the best I could do, lest I upset the ambience of the new house, the feng shui, so to speak. This house is yours, he said, and every aspect of you must live here, even what you consider to be the worst. How can I finish my work if you hold back what is so much a part of you? But only you can unlock the shed. So reluctantly, that's what I do, and fearfully begin to pick through the dust and cobwebs, tearfully handing him one object at a time. I expect rebuke and censure, but he lovingly takes each item back to the house to carefully find the exact place for it. Then stepping back says, there, that's where it belongs. It's quite beautiful, don't you think? And smiles, clearly satisfied with his work. After a while, my shed will be empty and my whole life will be in this new house, every piece of it loved and cherished, so that the old that was hidden and shameful will be lovingly restored to take its rightful place among the new in the feng shui of Jesus.
Thank you, Sandra. Would you be able to read a couple from the book, maybe the cactus one or Big Bang or the one on the cover, if you have them handy?
Okay. I've got to dig them up. What was it? Fragments, I think was one. Fragments?
Fragments was one, yeah.
Come on, go away. Fragments. Here you go. Fragments is the one that's on the cover of the book. Lord, you come walking among the brittle fragments of our broken lives, gathering up every sharp shard to fashion a new and beautiful mosaic. And all the while your hands and feet bleed for the love of us.
Do you have Big Bang there? That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I've got it here somewhere. Big Bang. Here we go. Big Bang Theory. Lord, when my life blows apart into a billion fragments, remind me of that first moment when the wonder and spectacle of all that surrounds me began its journey into being, and that every creative moment begins with a big bang. This too might be the start of something big, something beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandra.
Thank you.
So it's win a free book competition time, which is exciting, eh? So you can win a free Wild Goose book. You might pick the book we're talking about, of course, but if you have it already, you could win another Wild Goose book. We could talk about that. And I'm going to give you a quote that was said by a comedian. And if you email me who said this at Neil, N-E-I-L, at ionabooks.com, that's N-E-I-L at ionabooks.com. If you have the right answer, you can get a free book. Easy as that. I'll take the first correct caller, the first right answer. I won't check today about that. I'll check tomorrow. And so you're dying to know, here's the quote. What comedian said this? Blessed are the cracked, for the light can shine through them. Blessed are the cracked, for the light can shine through them. What comedian said that? Give me the right answer and win a free book. And it's attributed to a couple different people. So I'll take either person that it's attributed to. So there you go. Good luck. And you could use the internet to cheat, but I know you won't do that because, but I'll never know. So Rachel McCann is a former youth community and social worker who retrained in gardening. She also enjoys crafting, foraging, making pottery and soap. She's very creative, and she's the editor of Down the Track, a chemist anthology, which is published by Wild Goose and is a very excellent book, which you should pick up if you're interested in chemists or care about chemists. Amazing place. Rachel, I think if I asked you about what makes you feel better, what's good for your well-being, you'd certainly say getting your hands in the earth and being in nature. You wrote about that in Redeeming Our Cracks. Can you read some of that piece, please?
Yes, thank you, Neil. And just before I start, I wanted to say what a great job you've done with this. It's a wonderful resource of such a wide range of people and stories and writing. So thank you, Neil. I know how hard you work on these things. Yeah, tomorrow is World Therapeutic Horticulture Day. So it's quite fitting that I'm going to read about my own sort of personal connection with nature, which, as Neil says, is something that keeps me happy and healthy, and has certainly helped over the years with my mental health. And I'm also going to read a bit about some of the projects I've had the privilege to be involved with around nature and gardening. The goodness of nature. Being in nature is one of the best things for my well-being and mental health. It's widely recognised now by policymakers and service providers as being of great benefit to all. I've been involved in a number of green health projects, both as a professional supporting others and for my own personal creativity and health. Going outside, breathing in fresh air, watching a tree bending in the wind, smelling a flower, feeling the rain land softly upon our skin, placing our hands in the warm earth, listening to the birds or tasting freshly picked fruit are things we often intuitively know are good for us. The stillness, sense of peace and calm that being in nature brings is affirmed in both spiritual wisdom and scientific research. Indigenous communities, healers, shamans, poets and prophets around the world have always shared a deep sense of reverence for nature, founded on a sacred respect for the earth and all beings. One of the most well-known Christian mystics, Julian of Norwich, said, "The first good thing is the goodness of nature. God is the same thing as nature. The goodness in nature is God." Increasingly, science has supported the value of nature connection. For example, research shows that bacterium found in soil stimulates serotonin, which improves well-being. The development of green health projects and policies has been significant in recent years. Continuing budget cuts to primary and social care have left many people waiting months or even years for any kind of psychological help. And social prescribing is by no means a replacement for this. However, creating opportunities for people to connect with nature can and does improve a sense of wellness, belonging, and purpose. And this is well documented by organisations such as Thrive and Trellis. Sadly, the opposite is also true, and access to nature is not equitable. Studies show that health outcomes are poorer in those who have less access to green space. And time in nature cannot negate structural traumas such as poverty, racism, and gender violence. A regenerative culture of genuine equality and sustainability is a radical necessity for the health of the planet and all beings. As a youth and community worker, both science and spirituality have guided and informed my work over the years. Work that's involved supporting vulnerable people to learn to grow veg, use herbs, learn to forage, and to experience walks and camps in the wild. In one job, I was part of a team who took vulnerable young adults to stay in a bothy in true Scottish wilderness. It really was absolutely in the middle of nowhere, I'll just add in. Every one of the young people we took has experienced trauma of some sort. Many of them have been pathologised as challenging or difficult. Yet often they showed kindness, caring, and insight that revealed who they truly were. For many, being out of the city was a new experience. Looking at the stars in the clear, vast night sky, planting and tending trees, sitting around a fire, cooking for each other, all brought a sense of community and connection. They were able to share their skills and gifts. One young man discovered a real talent for dry stain diking, which really built his confidence and self-esteem. Many of the outcomes were quantifiable in terms of increased teamwork skills, a sense of accomplishment, new friendships, though it was often their comments that revealed the benefits of the experiences. One young person said, "It's the thought of coming here that stops me going back to the drugs. I imagine being here with the wind on my face every time I feel low." Another comment was, "I love the freedom. People trust us. There's no judgment. I don't need my phone or social media, and I feel peace." On a personal level, growing up in a working class urban town, we didn't have much green space, but I can remember the freedom of cycling quite some distance to a woodland on the edge of new housing developments. It felt vast and magical, and I felt wild and free, and usually got home covered in red clay, mud, and with a treasure trove of stones, acorns, leaves, and other exciting finds stuffed in my pocket. It was an escape from anger and violence that at times characterised my household, and perhaps unconsciously taught me at a young age that nature was an ally, a place of safety for me. Nowadays, I'm hugely privileged to live in a beautiful part of the world where I walk every day. And a few years ago, we set up allotment plots in my community where we have children, pensioners, families, and individuals enjoying the space. My own small plot gives me great joy and challenge. The cyclical and seasonal rhythm of gardening is grounding and nurturing, and caring for plants, growing fresh food, physical activity, and just being in a beautiful place give me peace, hope, inspiration, creativity, and a sense of the sacred which restores and renews me. With support and access to opportunities, learning to live well with our mental health struggles can lead to moments of joy. And in my experience, nature is a gentle, faithful partner in this. As we care for the earth, she cares for us. This is the best medicine for my own mental health, and I've seen it help many other people too. Nature truly offers her goodness to all.
Thank you, Rachel. That's
Thanks,
amazing.
Neil.
I think in your piece, you highlighted a couple organizations there that were in the footnotes, Thrive and Trellis Scotland. That's good resources.
Yeah, but one's UK and one's Scotland, and both work around therapeutic culture with great, huge amount of resources and projects linking them. So yeah. I'll maybe put them in the comments, shall I, Neil?
What's that?
Shall I put the link in the comment?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Thanks,
and you've written about Camas being a great place to be, which I think has a mental health and well-being worker now, I think.
Yes, good news.
Okay, Janet, you're up. Janet Lees is a member of the lay community of St. Benedict, a URC minister, and before retiring worked as a speech therapist and a school chaplain. She's written a lot about using the Remembered Bible. There's a couple books Wild Goose has published, and she's published a whole bunch of downloads on Wild Goose too. Janet, some things that make you feel better. You recently walked the length of Britain on the end-to-end from John O'Groats to Land's End. How did that go? How was that on your mind and head?
Well, fancy you starting with that, Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it was the other way round. Land's End to John O'Groats.
That way it gets better as you go on.
That's what Bob's just saying. It gets better as you go on then. And you do the best bit last then, you see. Also, you have the wind behind you. And usually the seasons are improving as you go up. But also Scotland's the best bit of the end-to-end anyway. So yes, it was the first thing I did on retirement in 2019, so before the pandemic. And at that point, I retired from my ministry as a school chaplain and from my roles in the United Reformed Church. So that's when I joined the lay community of St. Benedict, which is an ecumenical network of people who are trying to follow the rule of St. Benedict in their everyday lives. And we sort of have an online presence as well, which you can find through our lay community of St. Benedict website. Just stick that in a Google thing and it'll come up. And you're right, I have written a lot of stuff in the past, and I'm very grateful to Wild Goose for having published over a period of time different things I have written. And you're also right that a lot of it is about what I call the Remembered Bible. That is the Bible that is in us, as opposed to a printed and written down Bible, because in my work as a speech therapist and a school chaplain and a minister with communities on the margins, I found that not all of those people were in a position to read the printed Bible. But they often had, in fact, most of the people I know have this Remembered Bible in them. And so my work has focused on that, on how people use their Remembered Bible and encouraging its development. And I particularly did that when I was school chaplain for about 10 years. I was a school chaplain in a school for children aged from 3 to 18 in a school in West Yorkshire. And as I say, I retired from that in 2019. And that's some of the pieces that are in the book are informed by that traveling with those children and young people. And some of it has come along since, especially with the end-to-end and other walks. Though, of course, we couldn't do such long walks during the lockdown. We're back to walking again at the moment. And we're currently having a little break from this year's walk, which is on a thing called the Meridian way which goes along the line of the zero meridian in the east part of England. And we got to about Wisbech in Cambridgeshire last week, and we're having a little break now, and we're going back to that on the 6th of June. And we're doing a podcast. We found out how to do podcasts, and we now do that. And you can catch that on that Spotify thing if you're desperate to have a bonkers time. So that probably summarizes quite a lot of things about what we've been doing for a bit. And maybe you'd think to yourself, about time I stopped rabbiting on about that and read something out of the book instead. So I'll try and do that. One of the things that's happened over the years I've been writing is that the things I write have got shorter. And everyone's saying, thank goodness for that. But that's because working with folks who have few ways of expressing themselves verbally, or who struggling with expressing things about their lives, I tended to find that the fewer words are the better, really. And sometimes you just can't find any words for it at all anyway. So some of these are a bit like that. All right, these shorter ones that I'm going to read to you here are a bit like that. There's the first one I'm going to read is a thing called At Times Like This. My God, at times you're hard to believe in. When hell comes closest and hope seems to trickle into the ground. At times like this, may the smallest spark of love, seen in the outstretched hand, keep us alive to your presence in us all, and may that give us the will to believe. One of the things I used to do in chapel with the young people was a sort of call and response thing, but based on remembered Bible phrases. A bit like some of the kind of things you find in other wild goose liturgies in the We Worship book and stuff. So here's one of them. It's called Calling Disciples. I think it's very important for you to understand that most of the children and young people at the school were not from practicing faith backgrounds. And of course, this leads people to say to you, well, how will they remember the Bible? Well, they do. Over 10 years or so, one discovered all sorts of strange things were happening and could happen. And as one of the members of staff said, God is out and proud in this school. Interesting, eh? And also that another said, the children in this school know more about the Bible than anyone I know. I thought, oh, that's interesting. So it wasn't taught from a point of view of reading written versions or studying written versions. It was based on retelling of things and the bits that meant the most to them. So here's a little piece that's got some of that in it. And the way this would work is one person might say the first sentence, and then some other people might respond with the second sentence in each pair of sentences. And it's called Calling Disciples. We are unable to speak up. You sit with us in silence. We think we are alone. You affirm us as friends. We seem buried in hopelessness. You wait beside us, ready to rise. We feel excluded. You include us. Our lives are in turmoil. You say, go in peace. One of the shortest bits is this one I call God's Cushions. The thing about the chaplaincy at the school was it was open to anyone to come to, and it had a big sofa in it, which had a lot of cushions on it. And people would come to the door And they'd knock on the door and they'd say, Rev, can I talk to you? And I'd say, of course. And they'd come in and sit on the sofa where there were the cushions. And that was just the best thing, really. So this is about God's cushions. God's grace and mercy are cushions on which I rest. Right now, I can do nothing else. I'm looking at the little short list that Neil gave me. I'm going to go with this one, what is happiness? When we were sort of thinking about the contents of this book, and Neil, as ever, you've done a marvellous job with this, and I know it was under very difficult circumstances quite often as well. One of the things you encouraged us to think about was what was happiness like? And that's another thing I used to ask the young people what they thought, and in the form of sort of like the Beatitudes, because in some translations, those go, instead of blessed are the, they go happy are the. Okay, so this is sort of come out of thinking like that, right? And it's called What is Happiness? To understand that, we need to consider some of the things that count as unhappiness. What makes us sad? I am sad when my spirit seeps away, when I mourn multiple losses, both my own and those I carry for others. I am sad when my pride is hurt, when I feel thwarted, rejected, unheard or cut off. I am sad when there is no peace. My dreams are haunted, sleep is hard to find. The news is replete with disaster, and there's no sense of where to go next. I am sad when I feel got at, betrayed or attacked, my judgment not valued, or my identity not affirmed. Yes, insults can make me sad, but it's mostly more subtle stuff that heaps up and squeezes me so that I can't think or speak without crying. That's when I'm sad. I'm happy when justice is done, and there's no further need to be angry, which can be so exhausting. I am happy when my identity is affirmed, not lost in paragraphs of jargon or bundled up in red tape. I am happy when my voice is heard, so that change can happen and new life can flourish. At the school, we had a team of mental health champions. We dealt with different organisations that help support young people with their mental health challenges. And I understand from those who carried on working after the pandemic that there's been a lot more need for that since then. And there are a lot of different organisations doing that now. One that we used to work with is called Young Minds. And I'm sure you'll find others both locally and nationally if you want to look some up. Now I live in a small village in Derbyshire. I walk a lot with my husband, Bob Warwicker. It's a beautiful valley called Longdendale. I write about it on my blog and in other places. And I also join in some village activities. We provide a thing called a place of welcome, where people can get a chance to chat with others and just hang out. And I also join in a thing called the Repair Cafe, which has turned out to be very popular, because not only do you get your clock or your toaster or some other thing fixed, it does you a lot of good as well. In fact, I was mending a pair of dungarees for somebody when I found out how to make podcasts. So there you go. And another thing I do that helps my own mental health is I play the organ very loudly. Now, thankfully, it's a very small church. They don't have a proper organist, and they don't seem to mind me making a hash of it. So let's finish with this one, which I wrote when I was on retreat with members of the lay community of St. Benedict at Ampleforth Abbey, which is a Benedictine house in Yorkshire, and it's called With Arms Open. Arms open, ready to catch, to hold, to welcome. Arms open, face smiling. Arms open, you welcome. You welcome me. Arms open, my mouth is open in amazement. Arms open, there, in the darkness, our arms are open.
Thank
So
you.
I think that gives you a flavour of all that, and thanks very much for asking me.
Thank you very much, Janet. Thank you. Hi, Thea. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you.
That's good. What are some things that make you feel better that you do for your mental health? You know, I hang out with my cat. I play the piano. What are a couple things you do?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I think getting outdoors, so ideally, yeah, in the garden, going for a walk, getting outside, more fields and sheep and fewer people and buildings is always good. So yeah, I think that's the main thing that helps me, getting away from work and yeah, connecting with people who know me really well. Those are a few. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little intro now.
Sure.
Okay, so Thea Joshi works in communications for a mental health charity. She is passionate about churches becoming safe places for anyone living with a mental health problem, and blogs about faith and OCD. She's written for Woman Alive and been on several podcasts. I watched one of the podcasts you were a guest on, Thea. I thought you were really eloquent and a really good speaker. Communicator, and I think you're a good writer. I just was personally just wondering whether you're thinking of, or are you writing a book at all? Maybe you should write a book or a memoir or a novel or poems or something.
Well, I mean, now you say that, I am trying to write, to be very honest, but it's all a bit scary and new. I'm not sure if it'll go anywhere, but I'm writing with faith and just seeing what happens. Because yes, there's a lot that needs to be. Well, there's always a lot I want to say. Obviously, I'm a chatty person, but yes, trying to do more writing. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's kind.
Best of luck with that. Do you want to give us just a wee taste of some of your writing?
Yeah, of course. Tiny bit about me. So Neil mentioned I work for a mental health charity. I work for Centre for Mental Health. I did just jump on the chat because Rachel Mack's piece earlier, when she was talking about access to green spaces, is basically what we're talking about at the moment. But I do write, this is all in a very personal capacity. So I live with OCD. I've had it for many years. My connection to the Iona community, by the way, is that my dad is a member. His name is Peter Cope. Some of you might know him. So I'm very new to all of this, but I was put in touch with Neil and I said, yes, I'll put some pieces together. So I don't know, Neil, would you like me to choose between them?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been trying to decide which one. Okay, I'm going to read a piece. It's more prose than poetry, and it might seem a little bit strange. It was me trying to explain how OCD manifests itself to me. So apologies if it doesn't make much sense without much understanding of OCD. As Neil said, I have done a podcast and I'll put that in the chat, and that gives a bit more of an overview. But I'll just read this and I hope it makes a bit of sense. So. OCD has no silver linings. It makes me neither house proud nor tidy, careful nor precise. Rather, it makes me fearful, irritable, absent whilst present, unfriendly, antisocial. There are no helpful quirks to a mental illness. OCD is like an algebraic formula which stretches beyond the edges of my tiny brain. If X equals 3 and Y equals a heinous crime, How do I get myself out of this black hole? Every few minutes, a new logic problem presents itself, demanding to be solved, sorted, and filed away until the next time. Conversations with friends, auspicious moments, special looks, none of them are important compared to the desperate urgency of solving the latest vile riddle. But how is my tiny brain to untangle the answer? Armed with half an equation and missing some crucial variables, I set about to solve it. But how many mathematicians can claim to get it right the first time? And isn't a hypothesis only proven by testing and trialing? So if I get one thought which worries me and another 3 which imply normality, surely it would be prudent to check again. Reaffirm the conclusion? I've hit a snag in the procedure though. The more I recall testing the variables, exchanging and disentangling the propositions, the more blurry they all become. X, Y, and the rest of the sorry alphabet becomes more and more muddled until they're all arms and legs. And my own arms and legs are sore and weak from being held at strange angles during many long moments of checking. We carry on this vicious little dance until, panting and fragile, I emerge from the tangle of thoughts, my breath short and my hope severely stunted. Who has won this round? In almost every case, this is an entirely needless question. It is always the victor. How can I win at a game designed to floor me every time?
Thank you, Thea. It really does give a feeling of the headspace, I think, for people who aren't familiar with it. I really think it does.
Thanks. Sorry if it was not the most cheery note to finish on. The other piece is slightly more cheery. You can find it in the book, but yes, that's just a little glimpse.
Oh, you don't always have to be cheery. We just have to be real. Thanks for sharing that, and I look forward to seeing more of your writing down the road. And so I've written quite a lot in my life, and still do. There have been a few pieces that have stayed around and that remain important to me, and I'm really grateful for that and for having known the people who inspired them. So I'll read a couple now. Okay. The Rainbow Man. I met the Rainbow Man when I was working in a night shelter for homeless men. The Rainbow Man dressed in bright colors, tie-dyed t-shirts, purple hair, pink nail polish, spoke in colors. It was a depressing, colorless place, dingy, dirty yellow walls, clouds of gray cigarette smoke hanging. He was labeled mentally ill, schizophrenic. At one time, he had studied fine arts at college, somebody said, had worked masterfully in oils and acrylics. Now he worked in Crayola crayon, drew like a child, dogs and cats and upside down pink-orange flowers planted in clouds. He got beat up by the men a lot. One day, he brought a leaf in from a walk he took. He was always taking long walks, and held it up to me and said to look, see the light in the leaf, pulsing, dancing still. I was busy and tired and had forgotten how to see and said, yeah, it's a maple leaf, so what? There was someone buzzing at the door again, paperwork, so many important things to do. The light in the leaf, he said again, and danced away in a whirl of wind. And when I sat down and stopped, I realized that what he meant was to look and see that energy, that essence alive in the leaf. He could see it. He was supposed to be disabled, but he was able to see the light of God in a leaf and to wonder at it. After weeks of running blind through my life, the Rainbow Man taught me to open my eyes and heart again. Elizabeth. I met Elizabeth while working in a psychiatric hospital. It was a place where few people kept track of the days. Either they were unable to, lost in a fog of heavy drugs, or because the days were all the same, they didn't bother. Elizabeth had an amazing and inexhaustible wardrobe and made a point of dressing up extravagantly. She sometimes changed as often as 4 times a day, and standing, smiling in a long flowing golden gown, a floppy hat, both too big for the short old woman who looked like a little girl trying on her mother's outfits. Long white gloves, bright red lipstick, costume pearls, dangling earrings in the shapes of moons and fishes. She explained proudly, "I dress this way, darling, because the days are all the same. And if the dirty old days won't change, then by Jesus, I will." Through the long afternoons, she danced in the dirty fold-up dining room to a music only she could hear. All around her gathered the ghosts of the place, the suicides, the walking dead. I danced with her sometimes when I was on duty, and she taught me new steps, taught me how to open up and hear the music, taught me how to dance no matter what. So I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who read tonight, and to all the contributors to the book. I wanted to say a special thank you to Yvonne Moreland, who wrote the central liturgy in the book. And thank you to other writers in Wild Goose Books, and to anyone who supports us. We're a really small publisher, and if you buy a book, it makes a difference. So thank you for supporting us. And thank you to everyone out there who came to the Zoom tonight. And thanks again to Iona for being the great Zoom master, and to Jane behind the scenes on the chat. Probably, I don't really look at the chat because I can't do more than one thing at once. So if you want to pick up the book or look at the books we have, it's www.ionabooks.com. I guess we've been talking about good mental health resources, and it's always good to mention the Samaritans, I think. Their telephone line is, I think, 116-123. It's for a mental health emergency. I think I should probably say that. And I think it's free anytime to call. So take care of yourself and each other, and I'll close with a blessing from the book by Ruth Burgess called Along the Roads and Byways. Bless us in our good days, bless us in our bad days, bless us with friends and family, bless us with strangers, bless us with trees and dandelions, bless us with city streets and cafes, bless us with storytellers and buskers, bless us with weeping and with joy, bless us, God, with healing and adventure along the roads and byways of our journey home. So thank you very much for being here tonight. Take care.